Hey everybody, Topher here. So Trump got me, he tricked me, he fooled me, he did it. When he said, I'll make a decision on bombing Iran within 2 weeks, I really thought it would happen at the end of 2 weeks. I didn't think it would happen within 2 days. But that's just part of the deception of Operation Midnight Hammer. Really interesting operation. So let's talk about what happened. It's Monday morning here in Taiwan. Operation Midnight Hammer, the American bombing of Iran nuclear facilities, that happened yesterday. We'll quickly go over some of the details. I'm also interested to discuss some of the international reaction, particularly amongst Iran's allies, especially China. And I think we should talk about whether or not the U.S. will see any sort of retaliation and what that might look like. But first, I'm a little hungry, so I'm going to get on a U-bike and I'm going to ride to a nice restaurant, which is near my Chinese class. I'm a big fan of public transportation, and these bicycles are just awesome. Really good idea. So Trump did a great job deceiving the world by saying that he would make a decision within 2 weeks when he had probably already made the decision. Another interesting deception was how the U.S. flew B-2 bombers to Guam. And from what I understand, those bombers that flew to Guam weren't involved in the attack against Iran. Now, what was involved in Operation Midnight Hammer was 7 B-2 bombers. These are huge stealth bombers. They have extremely long range, especially with America's ability to refuel in air. And from what I understand, a lot of these bombers actually came from the U.S., refueled in air along the entire way to Iran. Now, each of these 7 B-2 bombers was carrying 2 GBU-57 MOPs, massive ordnance penetrators, bunker busters. These are extremely heavy bombs, like 30,000 pounds. I think that's around 13,000 kg. And they don't have a lot of explosives. They're just dropped from a very, very high altitude, and they're super heavy, so they penetrate deep, deep underground. But that was just part of the operation. What started the operation, I think, was actually a submarine, which overall fired over 30 Tomahawk missiles. And I think most of those missiles were targeting just one of the 3 targets in Iran. Additionally, there were a lot of other fighter jets. They said Gen 4 and Gen 5, so that's probably F-35s and, I don't know, maybe F-15s, F-18s, I'm not sure. But these flew ahead of the bombers to act additionally as a decoy, but also to bomb any potential remaining air defense sites. So it was this huge coordination, this huge operation that actually only lasted about 25 minutes of bombing. And although we don't have the damage reports yet, probably very effective. Severely setting back, if not completely obliterating, Iran's nuclear program. And I know there's been a lot of media out there, a lot of propaganda saying that, oh, you can't trust that Iran actually had a nuclear program. But there were many reports from many different intelligence agencies, as well as the International Atomic Energy Agency. They were all saying that Iran has far surpassed the threshold that is needed to refine uranium just for nuclear power. Now, if you just want nuclear power, you refine uranium to about a 3 to 5%. But a lot of these reports said that they were close to 60% or even more. And from what I understand, the only reason to do that is if you're building a nuclear weapon. I'm not a nuclear scientist, but from what I've read, Iran was already basically at the capability of building like a dirty bomb, getting very close to building a nuclear weapon. And Iran had negotiations. They entered negotiations with the U.S. They were given a window of 60 days. The U.S. basically offered them, hey, stop the nuclear weapons program and allow U.S. inspectors. Iran said no. And the U.S. said, okay, well, stop the nuclear weapons program and allow UN inspectors. And Iran still said no. Well, on day 61, they were attacked from Israel's Operation Rising Lion. So on the day of the attacks, I ran a poll to see what people thought the U.S. response would be in the future, what to expect. And as we can see here, most people said that the mission's accomplished, no more attacks. Very few people said that the U.S. will actually send soldiers on the ground, will deploy soldiers to Iran. But a good number of people also thought that there's a good chance that there will be more attacks coming, more airstrikes. And I'm in that window. I think that the possibility of airstrikes continuing is very high. And the reason I say that is because it seems that Iran's leadership just doesn't understand that they're out of options. So it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Iran's leadership be extremely indecisive, not make any moves, or even try and lash out and attack the U.S. or we'll talk about their possible responses. But anyways, do something instead of surrender, which is really the only way that they're going to end this bombing campaign. Let's talk about some of the retaliation that Iran could potentially do. Of course, they could try to do missile and drone attacks against U.S. bases in the region. However, their capability of launching these attacks has diminished greatly. A lot of their launchers have been destroyed. A lot of their stockpiles have been destroyed. And that would be an incredibly stupid move. You would guarantee a massive bombing campaign from the U.S. if you did that. I think it's more likely that they're going to try and have their proxies, right? Their proxy terrorist groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, try and initiate some sort of a campaign against U.S. forces. But they've been really quiet, actually. So maybe that's not as likely as I think it is. It's possible that Iran could lay sea mines or use their navy to mess with the Strait of Hormuz. This is where a lot of the world's oil travels. You know, this would affect the oil economy. Oil prices would raise. It would really affect China. So I don't think they're going to do this. They would piss off everybody, including their biggest patron, which is China. And another option is that Iran could implement some cyber attacks. I think this is extremely likely. They're very low cost. They're easy to deny. They're probably trying cyber attacks already. Will they be effective? Maybe, maybe not. Now, they might also have spies, agents that are within the U.S., try and sabotage something, maybe do an Operation Spiderweb drone-style attack against U.S. strategic assets. This is also easy to deny. In the U.S., it's particularly easy to get a drone and to make stuff that can explode. So I'd say this is reasonably possible, yeah. And absolutely, they're going to continue to try and unload a bunch of propaganda. They've been doing this already. You might have seen some pictures of them shooting down Israeli F-35s. It's absurd AI pictures that it's not very effective to anyone who knows what an F-35 actually looks like. But it is very effective to people who already have a strong bias against the Trump administration or the U.S. in general. So, you know, propaganda is a very effective tool. Now, as far as Iran's allies are concerned, I actually don't think they really have any allies. I think they have just strategic partnerships, basically, mostly with Russia and China. Very little word out of that. Russia hasn't done anything other than, you know, condemn the attacks. They've done nothing. They really can't afford to do anything. They're occupied with Ukraine. Now, China also condemned the attacks, and they increased the number of military flights that they have flying in the Strait of Taiwan, the Taiwan Strait. Basically doubled the daily flights, some as high as 50. But barely anyone really even noticed that. It's not a very effective statement, in my opinion. There's rumors, which I think are true, that China sent somewhere between 2 and 5 cargo aircraft into Iran. Now, we don't know what the purpose of those aircraft were. Maybe they were delivering supplies, probably delivering some supplies. But in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, it's not based on any evidence at all, an opinion based off of a rumor, if China sent cargo aircraft into Iran, I think the main purpose was to bring stuff out of Iran. Maybe people, maybe sensitive materials, secrets, hard drives, maybe gold, who knows? And of course, they could have had a dual purpose. They could have been sending supplies to Iran, but also bringing stuff out. Well, yeah, very interesting situation here. We've learned a lot about how Trump operates. The world is watching very closely, especially China and Russia. I'm interested to see how this plays out, how it will affect global oil prices, if there's going to be a regime change. So regime change to me seems more likely every day, whether that's happening in the next few weeks or the next few years. If that does happen, that could get very, very messy. Revolutions are typically very messy situations. But I think it's extremely telling how little support Iran has gotten from its proxies, its terrorist proxies, and its allies. What do you think about that? How do you think it's all going to resolve? How do you think this situation is going to play out? Please leave a comment. And if you like this, please leave that thumbs up, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. A giant thanks to my channel members. I'll see you.